Hi, I'm Chris Stirewalt, and it's time for Power Play, as that stirring music would so indicate. So the Republicans are going to nominate a governor with broad executive experience and a strong reform portfolio from a state and bring their record in their state capital to the... Wait. None of that's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen at all. And one of the ways that the conventional wisdom has been proven quite wrong in this cycle is that no one who's vying for the Republican nomination right now is a governor or a former governor. It's two senators, a neurosurgeon, and the host of The Apprentice are leading the Republican nominating process, and there does not seem to be any sign of life among the governors. So what's the deal with that? Brendan Bordelon is, I want to get it right, the online political reporter, but you exist in real life too.
I'm here, yeah.
Also not just online. And Daniel Halper is the online editor for the Weekly Standard. Okay, Brendan, starting with you. So Jeb Bush is at 2% in the latest poll in Colorado. Bobby Jindal just dropped out. John Kasich looks like a dead letter. Chris Christie can't make it happen. And by my count, there were, I think, 9 at one point governors running for president over the span of the cycle. There have been a dozen governors, and everybody said that was going to be the case, that the governors were going to be the guys. Scott Walker is hitching a ride back to Madison. What happened?
So I think there's two issues at play here. I think one is the personalities involved, okay. And I think the other is what's the strength of the governorship, right? Is executive experience,
right? But
with that experience also comes a bunch of decisions that you have to defend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And both of these are playing out. So when it comes to something like John Kasich, he decided to take Medicaid money from Obamacare for the state of Ohio. That's now a decision that's coming back to haunt him. When it comes to Jeb Bush, his support of Common Core, his education stuff back in Florida, that's coming back to haunt him. These senators, Senator Cruz, Senator Rubio, the people that are now leading behind the Carson-Trump pack, they really haven't had a whole lot of decisions to make at this level. They also really haven't been in the Senate that long. So when it comes to a record that you can point to and point out hypocrisy, something else, that's an issue. And also, they're just not particularly well media trained. I don't think they're really ready for the D.C. media environment. People like Bush, like Kasich, they come up there.
Jeb Bush is not ready for the D.C. media environment?
Yeah, I mean, well, if you can find somebody who disagrees with that, I'll give him a warm kiss.
Being bad at something doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you don't know about it. It just means you may just be bad at it. Yeah, Kasich is very much a creature of it. So here's the thing. How much does media attention have to do with this? And I argued, and just brilliantly, in a column, that in our Fox News First Note, I should plug, that essentially, in the old model, the Reagan model, the George W. Bush model, in the absence of social media and in the absence of sort of the collapsed media space, Daniel, you could work in relative obscurity in Sacramento or in Austin. You could put together a track record and then roll it out nationally and say, this is us. Now, to Brendan's point, ask Mike Pence what happens when social media and cable news and everything goes bonkers over something you're doing in your home state.
Yeah, well, there is the bonkers element, but I also think the flip side of that is that something serious is very hard to nationalize. So Bobby Jindal had a lot of cuts across the government of Louisiana, but he
has a 29% job approval rating in his home state.
Well, that's a separate problem, but he wasn't able to nationalize that issue, and in a way, and I think in a similar way, Walker's fight with the unions. Nationally, people were interested a couple of years ago, but he wasn't able to say, I'm going to bring this fight to the federal government in quite the same way. So I think we learned it's very hard to nationalize local issues unless they go viral, and you can never predict what's going to go viral in the same way Pence's did. I think the other thing, and this is sort of to Brendan's point, but a slight variation. I think the senators they have practice every day here on Capitol Hill. They're walking the halls of the Capitol, and a reporter comes up and says, "What do you think about the Syrian refugee crisis?" Right. And they have to answer a question like that. I think, especially with Governor Walker and Rick Perry, although Rick Perry spent a lot of time studying, is they just don't have the familiarity with a lot of these international issues that senators have to
immerse themselves
and answer for every single day. And I think that's the advantage of a senator. Barack Obama proved it, I think, in 2008, and I think
And your opinions cost less as a senator, right, Brendan? Your opinions cost less. If you're the governor of a state, what you think, actually, you have to say, well, no, we're not going to take the refugees, or yes, we are going to take the refugees, we're going to do this, that, or the other thing. Popping off, whether you're Donald Trump or Ben Carson or a U.S. senator, what you think doesn't actually mean that much, because you can always change it tomorrow because there's no final answer, right?
Yeah, the biggest decision you have to make is a vote. And, in the last few Congresses especially, they're actually voting on very few things. So... And every day they're saying one thing or another in the halls of Congress, but yeah, at the end of the day, people aren't scrutinizing those statements as closely because they don't really have any substance behind them. So yeah, I think when it comes to a senator, the media training is going to be what's most important, and they get a ton of that every day. The decisions are not so important, and that's what's kind of, I think, holding back the governors right now, is this long record of decision making and just not a very good way of explaining those decisions.
Is this the new normal?
Sort of. And one last esoteric point, I think.
Oh, I dig those.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a general, especially among Republican voters, there's a general sense that the country's not headed in the right direction. So
well, given that there's a 28% right track number again in the entire electorate, I would say, yes.
I'm not basing this just on popping off. There's a substantial polling to back it up. So I think if you're Jeb Bush and you point to Ford and you say, well, look how much success I've had there, people think, well, the country's not really headed in the direction. How much success could you have had? And I think just the general sense that the country isn't doing well and that states aren't doing well and places aren't doing well hurts when you're an executive. And I think that's Jeb Bush's problem. Nobody thinks of Florida as a paradigm of success. That hurts Jeb Bush.
No doom prophet is as affable as Daniel Halper. That is the truth. Brendan, I think you could catch up with him, though. We thank you guys for being with us today. We appreciate you. And you, Internet, we certainly appreciate you. Prophecies of doom or not. We hope you will come back for more Power Play real soon.